Good morning, everyone. Let me welcome you on behalf of the Rural Business Information System project on the following workshop regarding rural development programming. Today's workshop will be a bit different from the previous ones because this will be more about hard data, how to collect it, and how to analyze it, and what are the benefits of such work based on the case study of Farm Accountancy Data Network, FADN, which is a very popular, well-developed, and widely used in European Union countries mechanism to help and assess the viability of farming economy in each country and in the whole union. This is reflected in your country by the FDMS, Farm Data Monitoring System, which will be presented also at the end of today's session. But I would like to explain first why FADN. Why Ministry of Economy people who are in charge of rural development should also be acquainted with the FADN, why they should know and understand that mechanism. First of all, this is a very precise based on hard evidence system, which is not only bookkeeping, but also keeping the record on all the operations reflected by money, by expenditure, by income on a farm. Bearing in mind that 50% of Azerbaijan's population is living in the countryside, and absolutely the most of them live on farms or rural households with some land, we should assume that generate their income, if not most, but at least quite a substantial proportion from agriculture. And this is important also from that point of view, that the GDP of the country is also made of agriculture as a third economy of the nation. And that's why it's so important, because it's once about generating income. Secondly, it's important because it's also about rural life. People who live on farms, make money on or generate income on farming must be considered as an extremely important asset, but also as a very important target for policy making by the public administration, by the policy makers. That's why we believe that FADN is a perfect example, and it's good to show how hard data, which is properly analyzed, drawing proper conclusions, can help both farmers and policy makers to develop the best and find the best solutions for improving the regional and rural economies. Thank you very much for your attention to that introduction. And now let me give the floor to Mr. Andrzej Hałasiewicz, a trainer who will present the FADN. And let me also say that Mr. Ramil Hussein will be a presenter of the last PPT, about the last presentation about FDMS, and he is also our, as you all remember, or who already participated, he is also a moderator of the questions and answer sessions and the discussion, which is the important part of our workshops. Thank you, Andrzej. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jacek. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you have nice weather in Azerbaijan, because in Poland, after a few very cold days, finally is a bit warmer, and real spring is just starting. So finally, the Poland is going to be green after the long gray winter period. Apart what Jacek said, what I would like, by the way, Jacek, thank you for a very good introduction. You know, why this farm accountancy data system was invented? Because, you know, when you run a normal, regular business, usually you need to keep books. You need to record what are you selling and what are you buying. But in the case of farms, let's say there is not easy to convince farmer to turn to such a regular system for many reasons: culture, tax system, and so on. And also because, you know, farmers are buying and selling a lot of goods without any invoices. Just money are going from hand to hand. So looking for a way to have a solid information about the economic situation on farm, there will need to find another way. So it is this situation, this logic is behind of this farm accountancy data network, and it was the beginning of this story. So let's start with the history of the FADN. Our agenda for today, as already Mr. Jacek Węsierski told, the first session is about farm accountancy and data network history, characteristics, and objectives. The second session will be about the methods and means of data collecting and processing. And the third session will be delivered by Professor Ramil Hussein, the case of Azerbaijan and experience of Azerbaijan of FDMS, which is in fact very, very much based on FADN system. So why and how was FADN created? I already said a few words about it. What are main components of FADN of functioning, and FADN characteristics and challenges? So the system is almost as old as the European communities. So the farm accountancy data network was established in 1965, and it is the instrument which is, with the course of time, evaluating, but general objectives are the same: to have information about the income of agricultural holdings. And the second very important element is the impact of the common agriculture policy on individual farm, on agriculture as the whole, but on individual farms as well. So the focus of the system is on income, but also this very useful tool for different type of business analysis and to have information about the impact of common agriculture policy for each measure used in this common agriculture policy and the impact of such intervention at the farm level. So why and how was FADN created? The source is in the Treaty of Rome, the founding legal document of the European communities. So the objective of the common agriculture policy shall be, according to the Article 39, the increase of agricultural productivity by promoting technical progress and by ensuring the rational development of agriculture production and the optimum utilization of the factors of production, in particular labor. Thus, to ensure a fair standard of living for agricultural community, in particular by increasing the individual earnings of persons engaged in agriculture. So the treaty tried to create a situation that on the one hand, we have a very productive, very efficient agriculture, but people working in agriculture, they have a good, reasonable earnings. And the next element, which is not on the screen here, is that the food produced by agriculture should be accessible, affordable by the community citizens. So on the screen you can see the quite old document, the picture of this document, the European Community Information Service release the information about common market proposes to study income and accounts of its farmers. So 1962, the first communication about the FADN, that such system has been found necessary to supply objective and useful. So objective and useful information on income in the various types of farms. So the Commission proposal was that there is a need to apply agricultural regulation which will regular and ensure this. So 1962. And such a regulation was published 3 years later in June 1965, the first Council regulation of the European Economic Community about the creation of farm account data network for the whole community. So you see that there's here the regulation refers to the common agriculture policy, and the purpose of the network shall be to collect accounts data needed for income and so on. So what are main components of functioning this system? So the basic is the need for statistical data in the policy making context. Financing from many different point of view. Jacek already said a little bit about it, but you know why why also such system like FADN is needed? Because usually agriculture is supported or financed also by the state in some way, some kind of subsidies or some kind of measures for for supporting or compensation of some services delivered by farmers. So when policymakers are implementing such measures, it's good to know what would be the results, what could be the result of such intervention. And the fund is very, very much useful from this point of view. But it's also important that the system has a solid financial basis, that the system itself could function quite well without thinking how to finance needed activities. So the FADN has legal basis and legislation which apply on different levels of the system, has a clear organizational structure, institutional framework, and well-trained specialized staff on all levels. Very important element is farm recruitment. I will talk about it a little bit more later on. And interinstitutional cooperation is very, very much needed in the whole process. So the methodology and procedures are really very well developed and consequently implemented. There are different rule books, memorandum of understanding with related organization. And there is a good supporting and constantly developed IT system, which is serving for data collecting and processing. So currently in the system is almost 90,000 farms. And on this chart, you can see the line, how it was changing with the course of time. The numbers are number of the European Communities members, 6 funders, and when the increases, and the biggest increase when 10 countries joined EU in 2004. Then Romania and Bulgaria, and Croatia. Today again is 27 countries because UK leave the EU. We had Brexit. I'm not sure what is the situation with FADN in UK, but I believe that they keep the system. They have a system for Wales, Scotland, and England. So as I said, the FADN system has a solid and fully fledged legislation system. There's a basic act, council regulations from 2009, delegated act, the commission delegated regulation from 2014, and implementing act, commission implementing regulation from 2015. The system is going to be improved again, but I will tell you about it later on. So what is the structure of the FADN network? So, of course, the base there are agricultural holdings, farms
Elbette ki sistemin esasını
collected. And those information is gathered by the accountancy offices, liaison accountancy offices. From those offices, in the case where it is the regional agency offices and liaison agency for the whole country. In the case when there are regions, the regional committees and national committee which control and keep eye on the whole system. At the commission level, there is a division, the unit, and DG Agri, Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development, and there is a European Union Committee on FADN. And so the data are here processed, and the results are presented and provided according to the needs, and annual reports and analyses are published. What is the flow? What is the chronology? How the system works? So everything starts with selection of farm, the farm's recruitment, and then the farmers need to be trained about the data collections, and of course the IT system needed to be on the place. Then in the year when everything starts to work, so farm inventory, the accounting started, and during the accounting year, farm keeps records of all economic transactions. The farmer is supported by advisors. So advisors visit the farm and help them, advisors, and make some correction when it's needed, and so on. On this stage, it's advance payments to the liaison accountancy office. This payment in total currently is €160 per farm. So this the advance payment is 50%. So, and then in this first years of the working of the system is the closure of the accounting year and farm inventory on the end of the year. Here we have at the beginning of the year farm inventory and on the end of the year. Then the next year, the visits by the advisors to the farm to collect information continue. Liaison agency sends data to the commission. In the system, there is the quality control at the member states level on the liaison account office, and then the quality control by the commission. If something is wrong, the office is trying to explain the situation or correct when the correction is needed. So the data quality control by the commission again, and then the data are used according to the needs, and the presentation of the results of the farm accountancy data network is presented to the committee, and when everything is okay, the rest of this amount, currently it's €8 by farm, the money are paid to the liaison account office. So this process on the graph, so the selection of the plan, selection plan, which farm should be choose, data collection and conversion, data uploaded to the system at the FADN IT system, data confirmed, test data coherence, typology classification, data quality assessment, and after this quality assessment and necessary corrections, the data upload in the system for final processing when the analysis are provided, and there is a dissemination of data as the final stage of this process. So who is doing the job? At farmer level, data collectors with knowledge of agriculture and accountants. So the farmer is supported by advisors. At national level, we have coordinators, trainers which train both farmers and advisors who are assisting farmers, analysts and IT specialists. At the EU level, we have data validators, country specialists, analysts, and of course, IT specialists. So it's really the very complex system with a very well-prepared, very well-trained staff on the all levels. So the farm's participation is the system is voluntary. So there is a need to motivate farmers to participate in the system. I think that in fact it's some kind of prestige to be in the system. So rather national institutions have no problem to convince farmer to participate it, and also for farmers it's good because they have a better information about their economic situation and consequences of their decisions on farm management. So targeted benchmark, dedicated analysis, specialized advice, and it is very much based on personal contact between advisor and farmer and created trust. Because the one rule of the FADN is voluntarity, that's the farmer will to participate in the system. They are not forced to do it. And the next rule is that the data collected in the system are not used. It's not allowed to use them for taxes purposes. So payments, subsidies, and also some role plays in this motivation process, promotional materials and some gifts. But let me repeat that first of all is the prestige that my farm is in the system. As you already noticed, I believe that many institutions are taking part in this process, so that there is a great need for good interinstitutional cooperation. Agriculture extension services, very important actor in this process. provincial government authorities in some member states. Institutes for Agriculture, Science. In the case of Poland, it's in fact the Liaison Accountancy Office, our Institute of Food Economy and Agriculture. Statistical offices, paying agencies, accounting offices, universities, and international organizations. So those organizations need to cooperate for good results, to have a reliable data produced by the system. A part of this direct information collected by the Farm Accountancy Data Network. The system is also using additional data. So different type of registers: farm register, animal register, vineyard registers, and so on. Administrative databases. I access the information system of the paying agency, where all the information related to farm which receive subsidies are recorded. Tax records, but tax records are going to the FADN, but FADN informations are not going to the tax system. Notification to the Commission or other international bodies, so cooperation with other institutions, United Nations institutions. And now more and more use modeling exercises about the soil erosion, water abstraction, and so on. And satellite picture is playing more and more important role and deliver a good, reliable information. Scientific studies, the precision farming and big data are also going to be are playing more and more important role in the data gathering. So the FADN information from farms and other sources of information. So on this SWOT table, you can see the system at a glance. So it has, of course, its strengths, but weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for sure, it's a unique source of detailed and harmonized farm-level economic data, representing 90% of the EU farming. This 90% is farms which produce for market. The next strand of the FADN is the well-established methodology and information in time series, recorded since and available since 1989. There's a strong network, so you can easily communicate with different agencies in different countries through the whole network. Intensive use data for policy purposes. We'll go back to this later on. Weaknesses is a limited sample size. In case of Poland, as I told you, on Tuesday, we have 1,300,000 farms registered in Ajax, in the paying agency. But in in the FADN, we have 12,000 farms, a little bit more than 12,000 farms. So opportunities, structural change in agriculture, fewer bigger farms, so it's easier and more likely to keep accounts. Due to technological information, is potentially better to collect and collect information from different data sources, and further development of variables and indicators. But it's also a risk here, because more variables could make the system too complex and not easy to find necessary information. Threats, declining willingness of farmers to participate in the system. As I said, is the voluntary for farmers. The budget cost at the EU and member states level, and greater policy focus on non-income related factors. So those non-income factors are not easy to record and measure. So it is a sample-based survey, as I said. So it is the field survey. There is a minimum economic size, the threshold that farm could enter the system. There's a different economic size for different states. For some states, it's just 4,000 euro. For some members, it's 25,000 euro. The system is, in some cases, based on the regions. The system works on the selection plan, and you always need to think about how to choose and have an access to right suitable farms. And you need to organize the data collecting system. And as Professor Ramil Hussein will tell you about it later on, in Azerbaijan, you already made this exercise and the system is developing. So well operating national FADN needs stable and sufficient financing. So it's not enough this 160 euro per farm. The member states needs also to finance it from the national sources. Good organization and cooperation at central, regional, local, and farm level. Stable and clear legal basis. Motivated farmers. A dedicated professional and diversified team. IT capacity involve institutions and suitable IT tools. Knowledge of the country's farming sector, accountancy, and statistics. And use of the FADN results at all levels. So it is a well operating national FADN system. And now I propose 10 minutes break, because as you notice, I had a problem with my throat. And so I need a short break, and you can have a break for your tea or coffee. And on the next session, we will talk about methods and means of data collecting and processing under FADN. So now is so 10 10:40 we'll start next session. Thank you very much.
Welcome again. Let's start after the short break. I hope Andrzej is fine now. Are you okay, Andrzej? Good. Your voice is, let's say, amended, repaired. All right.
Hopefully,
so let's continue. Let's continue, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. The screen sharing. So during this session, I will talk about methods and means of data collecting and processing under the farm accountancy data network. So it is the agenda for this part of today webinar. Focus on farm income, ex-ante assessment, budget, trade, use of FADN for analytical works. So focus on farm income. As you remember, it was the one of the main purpose why the system was created, to have information what is the farmer and farmers situation from the income point of view. So time series overview. Due to this, it's possible to see trends, to see what is changing, and of course then you can look for explanation why those changes are appearing. When they are positive, you can think how to strengthen those positive trends. When they are negative, you can think how to limit them or avoid them. Grouping countries with similar income situation, so it's easier to compare. Looking at farmers' position versus average income. It's it's always important to see what is the relation between farm income and income from other activities outside of farming. Monitoring and anticipating long-term income instabilities. So, as I said, that you can create you can do something to stop negative trends. And visualizing data, because this visualization of data is very, very important to communicate the situation to the decision makers and to the this euro on this side and the timeline. So when 10 Eastern European countries joined the European Union, the income was lower than the two countries, Bulgaria and Romania. Again, the average farm income was lowered to it. So here it was. We had 15 member states. The farm income was quite high. Farmers' income versus the income from other activities in different countries. It is in the relation annual work farm unit. So it is counted per person, full-time working person. As you probably know, in the case of agriculture, it's not easy to it's not easy to calculate this factor of family work unit. So it's a full-time equivalent involvement. So as you see, in some cases, in some situations, for some short period, and the farm income is even higher than average from other activities. But in general, wages are higher. Farmers earn less. So, as I said, after joining European Union by Eastern European countries and then by Bulgaria and Romania, the average was lower, and so you can see differences that those old EU members, they have almost 30,000 income per farm, but in those new members, less than 10,000, and in Romania and Bulgaria, just around 5,000 euro per farm. So still there are big differences between those so-called old and new member states. and the same you can see on this map. It was from 2012, but the relations are still more or less the same. So that farm income is much higher in England and in the Western and Nordic Europe, because in Italy and Greece you can see that it's similar to some new member states, between 10,000 and 20,000 euro. So Portugal here, for example, you can see. So not every farmer in the Western Europe is earning a lot of money. Some of them, they have facing a real problem. So ex-ante assessment is a very important element to ensuring data, but ex-ante assessment is also important from the point of view that you could simulate policy effects. So you can try to measure possible effects of the new policy instrument. So it's a very important element for Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development, that before they propose some new measures, they could check, due to the FADN system, what could be the effect of such new intervention. The FADN contributing to annual budget planning. It's easier having the information to know how much money are needed for direct payment and other common agriculture policy measures. And the FADN it's also contributing to the trade negotiations. for example, with United States, because during the negotiation process, you can again simulate and see what could be the effect of the particular trade rule, what will be the impact on agriculture. It is also very useful for assessing risk in agriculture and see what is the impact of some crises. So simulating effects on the policy measures on income by types of farms, because the FADN system is provided in this way that there are certain category of farms, and you can see what will be the result of intervention on specific type of the farm. So when introducing or withdrawing a policy measure, you can see what could be the result. So the policymaker could decide how to do it, what to do it and how to do it. So as a result, we have this coupled and decoupled measures, and coupled or decoupled, they are related to the level of the production, and this type of decisions were taken. And also imposing restriction. So the restrictions related the limits of subsidies or prices. So the FADN is really very, very useful tool, because you can assess, you can see what would be the result of the changing policy instrument and new measures, or as a result of the withdrawal of the old currently used measures. Simultaneous mainly concern for income support, but the same extent cover the estimates of cost of environmental measures, displaying more and more important role. What is the cost of environmental measures? I believe that sooner or later, in the case of the food production, we'll be able to better measure those environmental costs. This is the reason why the so-called conventional farming is producing cheaper foods, because this cost of environment is not taking into account, it's not included into the price. So the fund strand is analysis of farms population for different schemes based on specific situation of an individual farm. It's possible to see the potential distribution of payment, income, farming costs, and so on between different type of farms. So it's really, really very good, useful tool, and it is important that it's used in practice. So it's not theory; it's a real good instrument. Contribution to annual budget for planning common agriculture policy expenditure. For this annual planning, it was really important to know how much direct payment money are needed in the context of financial discipline. That's simply you can more precisely plan the common agriculture policy budget for a particular year. And FADN is really used to estimates for years this budget. And the variety of FADN farms, variety from the point of view of type and size, and detailed data by farm really allowed for that. So this information is really reliable and very practical, very useful. Contribution to the trade negotiation, risk analysis in agriculture and impact of the crises. So price changes, very useful for trade negotiation. The price volatility, it's easier to analyze and manage the risk options. You can see what the result of rising cost of the production for farms. Particularly, the farm is making it with very, very sophisticated way for milk production. So Milk Market Observatory is producing the regular report about milk sector. Loss of production, what is the impact of the crop failure or disease. So risk analysis and impact of the crises and useful tool for negotiation with third countries outside of the European Union. But it's also very, very important role of the farm accountancy data network. There is a good tool, good source of information for different type of analysis. And FADN is producing regular and occasional reports when the specific subject for some reason is very, very important. So the FADN data also allowed ad hoc analysis, both for public and for internal use of Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development. The context indicators, which we discussed on the previous webinars, it's also partly based on the FADN system. External data request for analysis and use of selected FADN data online. In the FADN data online, there's some data available for everyone, and there's also a portal with access only for people who are involved in the system. So those regular and occasional reports are, first of all, about farm economics and income for all sectors, and margins and income for selected sectors, milk, beef, cereals. Reports on pig fattering, olive nuts, rice, and so on. The reports about cost of production. From time to time, the FADN is releasing a report about organic farms. Now it's extremely important because according to the new farm to fork strategy, the European Union plan to increase the agricultural land under organic cultivation from 7% current percentage to 25%. So it is very ambitious plan. So it's good to have a good information what is the situation of the organic farm. farming in less favored area. Farming on the less favored area, it's this case when because of the specific features of the
Yani bu
high mountain slot or something like this, the cost of running farm is more expensive. But we as a wider society, we really would like to keep farming in such areas. So this less favorite less favorite area measures is a good example that we pay farmers for public services delivered to the wider public because they run farms in the area that we prefer that still the farming will be present. Rural development support is also reported on the information base on FADN and farm economy focused by sector. The fact sheets, 11 fact sheets are regularly published. So some examples of ad hoc analysis, crop diversification in farm in the context of analyzing special agri-environmental measures. Agri-environmental measures also belong to those categories that we pay farmers for public goods delivery. Income variability in farms in the context of analyzing improvements in the Common Agriculture Policy, modeling the new Common Agriculture Policy implementation by member state in the context of analysis and design. And renewal generation in farms, young farmers, it's a very important issue. I will show you this young farmers report, the report about the situation of gender on gender and generation change in farms. Test to improve set of FADN data indicators also, because those indicators are all the times the system try to improve them and adjust to the needs, keeping possibility to have all the time a way to compare data in the series. Most of the FADN data distribution are asymmetric, and many observations are different from an average. So not because, average, not always a good information. So the median in some cases is much more useful for seeing what is the situation in the sector in the given group of farms. The measure could be presented to indicate where the most frequent value are located. So similar to the mod. So really a lot of information is possible, and the system all the time testing more data, more indicators, and try to see what is the result. Of course, there is a risk of confusion that with many indicators about the same and about which one is the real one, it could be a real confusion. So always you need to decide to have not too many indicators. You need to choose which indicator is in the best way of reflecting the real situation. External data requests, usually for aggregated data, some assessment, decisions, delivery, and so on. So, for example, comparison of farm income in the EU member states, and under this link you can see this report. For individual farm data, you have highly structured processes, the info collection, assessment, advisory committee, and so on. So usually for such individual data, the system received about 20 requests, for example, cap agriculture and agro-environmental subsidies and organic farming. So different services are asking DG AgriFAD system to prepare a specific report on deliver a specific data. As I said, the FADN used for statistical facts by country. Let me see how it will work today. So do you see the screen? And on this website, you can find EU country fact sheets and about European Union as the whole and for member states. So last fact sheets had been published in June 2020, so the data from 2019. So on this website, you could find yourself information about different countries and the whole economy. Farm economy focus by country and by sector. The CAP context indicators, FADN analytical reports. Under this link, you have this young farmers analysis. You have also reports about sectors and so on. And using those links, you could see data yourself. Here on this screen, you have again the FADN website, and you can use it and find additional information. So this farm economy focus is prepared by country and one for the EU and for each member states. It's published yearly. It's usually two-page sample of database with tables, graphs, and maps, basic agricultural statistics, income, other economic and financial indicators for farms for the last 3 years, and last publication which I show you was for 2019, published in the June 2020. Having this comparison between states and different situation, different sector, on this screen you can see what is the situation of the dairy in Germany in comparison to average in the EU. Productivity in France, again, that dairy farms in France are less productive than average in the EU. But a quite different situation is in Italy, that productivity is much higher than in the EU. Horticulture, the relation, the profitability of horticulture. Contribution of the to the CAP indicators. FADN played very important role for shaping, for preparation of measures for second pillar of the common agricultural policy related to rural development, and first pillar related directly to agriculture and its specific objective. Through the FADN, we can see the situation and trends. As the results, those indicators are proposed: output indicators, result indicators, and impact indicators. That we can see that general objectives of the common agriculture policy are achieved, that specific objectives also are achieved, and we'll see what is the output of the specific instruments and measure in informations. Young farmers, you see what is the situation. Only 6% the real young farmers, and over 30 farmers above 60. So in this report we can see the situation, and intention is to find a way how to convince young farmers to continue farming. What are perspective of a generational renewal? On this screen, you see that the page with this report about young farmers, structural and economic characteristics. It was published in October 2017. So then in this report, the farm income, in those reports of farm income, of course, analyzed land value, owned agricultural land, share or rented land, the cost of rental, investment, farm capital, level and structure of liabilities, debts, and returns on assets. So such are examined not only in this report, in the different others reports as well. AIDSK tool is an analytical model. It's an economic model which allowed DG Agri to analyze information from the FADN database, and this model is used to simulate what would be the result of some new measures, new tools, new instrument. It is very useful tool, and it is very much used by Directorate General of Agriculture during the preparation of the new programming period and during monitoring the situation. It's based on structure and economic data of farms, estimates the distribution of direct payment among different type of farms, and used to calculate the baseline and test possible and alternative scenarios. Last year, the European Union, the Commission prepared a new strategy from farm to fork. And in this strategy, there is an action plan. So this from farm to fork strategy is really a very good tool and a good example, because it's not just only words, but this action plan, which is in the annex to the strategy, shows what exactly are planned and when. So from this document, we learn that Farm Accountancy Data Network is going to transform into a farm sustainability data network with a view to contribute to a wide uptake of sustainable farming practices. So it's worth to try to follow how the situation will develop. And according to this action plan, this new regulation should be published in the second quarter of the next year, 2022. On the screen, you have the link to this action plan, and you can take a look on the action plan and the strategy itself. So now, Jacek, I am giving the floor to you, and it's up to you and Professor Ramil Hussain to run the last session and discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention and participation. The FADN is a complex issue, but it's really worth to know that it exists, and you can find the useful information. I can use it quite well for shaping the agriculture and rural development policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrzej. Can you stay for a while, and
of course I will.
Perhaps we can ask at the moment a short session for questions and answers, please, because the open discussion will be after Ramil's presentation of FDMS. So let's open the short session of questions and answers regarding the presentation. So it's open to participants to ask the questions, and let's see whether there are any of them raised. If not, we can move this to the last open discussion part. But perhaps at the moment, if there are any technical questions, this would be good if you could ask Andrzej to explain or to clarify. This is the difficult part, because there is a lot of technicality in such presentation. there is a lot of detail, and it's in fact it's FADN is at the moment a very complex mechanism.
Yes, yeah, you are right. It's not easy to present the importance of the FADN without some details. On the other hand, the too many details, it's making the presentation a boring a little bit. I think that what is the real added value for participants, I hope, I believe that that you will know that such systems exist, and you could find information when you will need it during your everyday work, and mostly during preparations and strategies. So please remember that such system exists, both in Azerbaijan, which Professor Ramil Hussein will tell you about more, and in the member states, that always you can find inspiration, you can look for comparisons and so on.
Okay, because we are still in the panelist mode, participants cannot ask questions verbally. So perhaps we can move this to the last open discussion session, where after Ramil Hussein's presentation, which will probably more, let's say, opening the possibility to understand these two concepts, because FDMS is derives from the FADN experience and logic.
And also, I hope that those questions which we are going to ask participants really could make the FADN system more practical, could show the practicalities of it.
Yes.
So, yes, I think that I believe that it will be a very good discussion after Professor Hussein's presentation.
Yes, this is the problem with the with the communication tools for bigger public. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let's then have a couple of minutes break, and let's meet 25 to 10. No, not to 10. 10 it means 25. 10, 11, 12.
To 12.
I handle that part, don't worry.
25 to 12. Sorry, my clock shows me Central European time. So in 12 minutes, 25 to 12, let's meet again, starting with the Professor Hussein's presentation, and then we open the communicator, and we will have a chance to talk and explain your concerns, questions, or problems. Thank you very much, and welcome to the last session of today, last presentation session. Because in fact, the last session will be the open discussion and an opportunity to exchange views, ask questions, and discuss the findings that you gained during this workshop. Now, I'm going to invite Professor Ramil Hussein to present the usefulness of FADN, but in the context of in fact, of the farm data and monitoring system, which is applied already in Azerbaijan and should in the future be even more expanding to let the policymakers and farmers benefit from such mechanism. Mr. Ramil Hussein, please start your presentation.
Çok sağ olun Cənab Yasif, təşəkkür edirəm.
Right, thank you, Jacek. I would like to welcome Andrzej as well. This is a topic that I would enjoy having discussions with you about, because I was in this system since its birthday, since the day it was born. We call it Farm Data and Monitoring System. I was part of this development process. I was a leader of this system, and it is very encouraging that this system continues its operation. And I would like and happy to share my views and information about the system. So we have 3 sections of this session. I will make a presentation, then there will be discussion. The presentation is in English, however, it is available in Azerbaijani language, and it will be distributed amongst you. First of all, as you can see, it was established in 2006 with the FAO support to improve the food security decision making in the ENP East area. It was developed in the Economy and Organization of Agriculture Institute. Now it's an Agri Research Center. We have representatives of this organization here. 2006, 2009, that was a pilot survey period in several regions as an initial experience. The real working phase started in 2010 through 2013. The managerial and organization capacity was developed. The Department of Information started collecting in 4 regions the data. And the concept was developed in 2007, submitted to Minister of Finance for financial allocations. But there was lack of resources at the institution to run this system afterwards. So it was operated by Statistics Analysis Department of the Minister of Agriculture. Firdausi at that time made a lot of efforts to keep it running, because aggregated statistical data departments we managed to apply the similar approach for veterinary system as well. In 2015, we have applied that in Nakhchivan as well, and right now we are at the next stage, and we hope that it will be sustainable. This system was first among CIS countries, and one of the success factors that it was accepted after the project as well. It's still running, and it's a serious database. And this FDMS system is a simplified version of European FADN. The system was adapted to the environment of Azerbaijan, and Andrzej mentioned that at very detailed level, that this FADN system is for CAP for the EU, and right now, even in Turkey, they are implementing similar kind of projects as a part of EU accession. But every country has own peculiarities, so we adopted that to Azerbaijan. The sample plan for representatives of population and sample for 10 to 13, we already implemented that. We took the population census, and before this census, we had 1.2 million of the universe, farm universe, but our data allowed us to say that not all of them are the market participants. More of them are subsistence farmers. They produce some poultry, milk, and meat, but that's for their own needs. And so we have picked 4,000 of a population. And they covered the 80% of the area and 83% of the livestock. So we decided to have them as a sample. So at that time, we engaged some data collectors. They were defining the farmers themselves, but Baku, the capital, the center, was given them the selection criteria: this many livestock, this many chicken, this much area, etc. But Andrzej again mentioned the voluntarity principle, and indeed how it was here as well, because not everybody was willing to provide this data. A special system was created with the support of the Statistics Committee, allowing the online data input. So we have picked 0.5% of the market players. After that, we did our best to improve the system. Now we have a new sample plan. According to last census of the farmers, we have 1.3 million farmers. The farm units, let's say, and they produce different products, but again, not all of them are the market players. For that, we have applied an original apply. We decided to make this sample out of those farmers that are registered in the system and apply for subsidies. So we decided to pick 1% of the subsidized farm. The survey between farms is comprised of the representatives of all groups and regional development centers are engaged into this data collection. They do the collection. This data is sent to the Agri Research Center, and it's already a tradition now. Already in 2016, we have, after we had the strategic roadmap, this data from the system was basically used for developing this roadmap. And one of the important activities of this roadmap was about the development of the system. It was mentioned in the strategic roadmap that in terms of the data collection and analysis, in order to assess the efficiency of the production and the distribution of resources, and in terms of identification of needs, this system is an important source of data. Well, of course, one may say that part of this data is collected by the State Statistics Committee already, but if we look at the substance, our system collects more detailed data, and there is a difference between this data collected by our system and by the Statistics Committee. And it is more in-depth data that allows you one to make political decisions. Strategical roadmap also emphasized that this monitoring system should cover the entire country, because this is very important. And now we have that, except for Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic, we cover the entire country. Now we have more challenge of covering new liberated areas, but the system is the State Agrarian Development Center it has a good network. They perform the monitoring and they collect the data. So Agri Research Center collects this data, and as it was collecting data, it acquired the capacity to analyze it. It has a relevant IT capacity. So now some information about the farmers can be obtained online, about the land of the farmer, location of the farmer, types of activities, and we can actually verify this data. So since very first day of the establishment, that we need to ensure the accuracy of this data, because farmers are interested in showing high cost and low income, or they are reluctant to provide any information at all. Sometimes farmers were saying that we show you the costs, but even we don't share that with our own wives. I mean, why you ask this question? Don't tell that to the ministry. And one of the serious issues is that there is no serious accounting requirements in agriculture, because agriculture is a tax exempted sector. And so they don't have books, they don't keep the books, so they just to remember that by heart. Some farms, yes, if they're big, they have the records, but in small farms, they don't have this records. They don't account for their own labor, and etc. So at that time, we agreed with farmers, and we send out a letter on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture that they would start having a record book. And please just take a note of the expenditures, like land cultivation, buying seedlings for animal, etc. Just write whatever expenses you have, and based on that, our staff will come and talk to you and collect this data and add this into the system. But voluntarity type of the process, the reluctance of people to cooperate, that's a bit of a challenge. One of the issues here is that the system needs financial support to be viable. But in terms of the data analysis, it is important to have this data. And based on this data, you could establish the policy, adjust the policy to see whether subsidies are efficient or not, especially for wheat production. If you apply subsidies, and the share of subsidies in 20-30%, but for the vegetable production, the subsidies are 2%. So we're interested to know what kind of impact that we have with the subsidies. The international and world experience shows that if subsidies last forever, they stop being a stimulating tool. So it should be a limited time intervention. Another point is that it is important to do the monitoring of the interventions that applied in the field of agriculture. We have a variety of fields like tobacco production, silk production, etc. And in order to do the monitoring, it is important to have this system, to have analysis, to look at the productivity, then based on that, develop tools to improve this productivity, assess the actions implemented, conducting other economic analysis. And another point here is that from the very first day, we looked at the experience of European countries, mostly the Hungarian experience, because Hungary is the closest to Azerbaijan country, post-Soviet heritage. They were then divided into small farms, and they passed this process. So we looked at the Hungarian experience in order to motivate the farmers. We looked at their ideas as well. We provided some support to these farmers and still continue. And the Agri Research Center has provided for free this expenditure book. As farmers were interested, mostly big farmers I'm talking about, we give them analysis like the productivity, the average productivity in your area is this much, it is lower compared to neighboring. So your farm is performing better than the average or worse than the average. So this kind of data is important for them, because farmers, they think that if they get 1,000 manat per hectare, that's a huge money, but the analysis show that there is a space for improvement, for quite a substantial improvement. So they could aim at prospective development. And when they apply for insurance, for example, FDMS is a good database for the insurance calculations as well. This data is useful for economic analysis as well. We can now look at the impact of tax exemption, impact of subsidies. Based on the current available resources, we engage only 1% of the farmers. But of course, if there will be more financing, we can increase this pool. But compared to European experience, this is done in Europe. This is done by this is outsourced, done by companies. But here in Azerbaijan, it is done by the staff of our Agri Research Center. And European experience also, so they produce the annual yearbook, information book, and we're trying to apply that as well and submit this data to concerned parties. It is very good information source for the postgraduate research students, for them who do the dissertation. It's a good source of original data, very good source of information for analysis. Besides that, Agrarian Research Center has own data that helps to verify this information. There is Agrar Bazar portal that provides the daily updates on the prices for wholesale and retail markets. Segregated by regions. The system was built since the very beginning with the quality check mechanisms. So when the error data is inputted, the system automatically starts checking it. So if the average data, for example, is like 60 centers per hectare, why you write 80 centers per hectare? Please check that. So survey questionnaire is updated regularly. GIS system is applied. Family members, households led by women, gender data, their income level, income, and the mechanisms that are tools and equipment used in the animal husbandry, crisis, impact of crisis, natural disasters, social status is quite well covered. Do they have extra farm activities? Do they have enough income from the farming? Irrigation expenditures, livestock data, sales, domestic consumption, which share of the production goes to the market for sale. So this is a quite comprehensive system. In the course of questions and answers, we can answer your specific questions. And further development of the system is not only for good of the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Economy, but also it is a very good tool to plan everything related to agrarian sector. This was well tested in EU, and Statistics Committee gets macroeconomic data, more aggregated data, but FDMS gets farm-based, village-based data. It allows to look at the dynamics, the trends, efficiency. It can help to decide whether it makes sense to group farms or not. What are the small farms in FDMS? We looked at 400,000 of 1.2 million universe. We put the threshold that if the income is below 1,000, then they're not eligible. So we have noticed that in 2010, 2013, the income level of our farmers were very low. And as Andrew said, we've heard that that was the case for Europe as well. So what we decided to go for the farms that are registered in the systems and applied for subsidies. So because if they apply for subsidies, they provide the detailed information. This is how we ensured the representativeness of the sample. And now we're doing a lot of work in order to improve the situation. And we will further go into the covering the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic and recently liberated areas. It is well reflected in the roadmap. Here, I would like to stop this part. After you join this discussion as panelists, I hope you will have a chance to reflect on the system, talk about usefulness of the system, how it can be used for policy development, and your views and proposals would be very important to us. And the system is part of the Ministry of Agriculture, but it would be useful for the local offices of the Ministry of Economy as well. So we will very much welcome the proposals and views, comments from the Ministry of Economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramil Hussein. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's very good that FDMS has been already implemented in the country, because this is the tool which, beside what we already talked about the reviewing, I mean, with hard evidence, supporting farmers and policymakers to take their effective decisions. It's also a very, very good instrument to consider the policy, the overall policy strengthening the economy of the country. Especially, let me underline what I said at the beginning of this workshop, especially in the country with a big number of farmers, with a big number of agricultural producers, with people who make living from agriculture and farming, and have to make sure that they can generate decent income from their work. I can see now that we are entering the mode which enables now us to discuss and exchange and ask questions. That's very good, because the essence of the workshop is always the discussion. It's always doing something, exchanging views, not only listening to the presentations. Can I, because we discussed with together in the training team, what can be the sort of the core questions? What can be the sort of the main line at which we should discuss FADN as a mechanism, rather than discuss technicalities? Let me ask Ramil to start to moderate the discussion and raise the questions that we discussed that could be useful to attract people to discuss the issues that were raised today during the workshop. Ramil, can I ask you to start the moderation, please?
Çox sağ olun cənab Yasik. Ümid edirəm ki, həmkarlarımız.
Thank you, Yasik. I hope our colleagues will also be active. First of all, I'm interested in reflections from the Minister of Economy, the regional offices. Did they use so far our system? The agricultural staff that are here, they know the system, they work, they supervise the data collection, they are part of the reporting and analyzing process. Some colleagues, they know and use the system for years. Rashad Iskandarov, although he recently joined, but he is in the process. I'm interested if FDMS is used by other organizations, like by COBIA, by Ministry of Economy. Do you know that this thing exists? And the next question, if you know that it exists, do you know what's inside? This was part of the strategic roadmap for the country development. That's why we developed it, and for them to benefit and whether they benefited. That's my first question addressed to Minister of Economy people. Yes, Faris will be happy to listen to you. Yes, hello. Salam. I greet everybody. I greet our expert as well, other colleagues from Ministry of Agriculture, regional centers, everybody. I think I should start with the words of appreciation for detailed presentations, well prepared presentation to you and to Andrzej, who left us, who spoke about similar European tool, the source of data.
Mənim üçün çox maraqlı oldu həqiqətən bu təqdimat. Bu sistem haqqında mən
This was very interesting presentation. I have very limited data on it.
Nədən doğru əslində? Biz regionların inkişafı şöbəsi
Why we're interested? Because we, as a regional development centers, we don't cover the agriculture only. For us, regional development, it is about infrastructure, business opportunities, development of entrepreneurship. It's not just only agriculture. Agriculture is just a part or an arm of the economy.
Biz bu məlumatları təhlil edərkən yalnız
But
statistik
while we analyze this data, we only suffice with the statistical committee. I can't say that we're happy about this data, but that's what we use. That we cannot go too much in details with this, like agricultural land, productivity, etc. That's enough for us.
Məsələ o yerə gələndə ki, biz dövlət proqramı,
But
regional inkişafı ilə inkişaf üzrə dövlət proqramlarının hansısa dövrlər deyək ki, illik və yaxud da
but when we look at annual or consolidated assessment of the
ehtiyac olur bizə.
implementation, yes, there might be need to access more detailed data, which could be an alternative to the statistical committee's data. Frankly speaking, this FDMS that we have, this monitoring center, I just wanted to ask that you know that as an agrarian research center staff also can help them. And to which extent we can access this data? Because so far, I haven't seen the interface of that system. What is collected, what is available. I'm interested in the type of data that is collected. Is this data or analysis are published? Of course, we can use this data for political decisions. Yes, it is job of the Minister of Agriculture, but it is important for the Minister of Economy as well. Do you have a published outcomes or the products of the system so that we would be able to use this data? So that we would know that there are problems in this part of agriculture, it needs subsidies, or the other part of agriculture doesn't need a subsidy, it's doing fine, and how we can access this data. Good question, if not to say the great question, because according to the roadmap, one of the requirements with regards to FDMS is to increase the awareness of other stakeholders about the system. Yes, upon request, different ministries can get any data that is available for 2015-2019 period. Right now, we're verifying the data for 2020 so that we would be in a position to supply this data to you. It all depends on your request. You're engaged into regional development. You also you're entitled to ask questions like if these farms get income not only from agricultural activities, but from additional activities like tourism or etc. You are the body in charge for the regional development. Based on requests, we can provide you any data. Yes, the Agro Research Center provides annual reports. Although it is available electronically, it is published as book as well. Agrobank portal is available now, if I'm not mistaken. As soon as this portal will be fully operational, you will have an access to the system as well.
Əmək və Əhalinin Sosial Müdafiəsi Nazirliyi özünün məşğulluq proqramı həyata keçirir. Onlar üçün də çox spesifik məlumatlar var ki, bir vətəndaşa 20 qoyun veririk. Bir il ərzində ümumiyyətlə...
Also, we have a statistical data. Like, for example, we give 20 sheep to a farmer. How much income one can get from this 20 sheep, or how can increase this farm? Is this 20 sheep enough to feed the family of 4, etc., etc. So this kind of data is available there. Right now, the Ministry of Agriculture itself provides reference to this data in its own documents, but for the ministries, this information, I mean, this is one of the objectives of these events, so that everybody would know about the system. And if you will use the system, that will substantiate the support of the system. More useful it will be, more opportunities will be to ensure its sustainability. Everybody will say that, yes, we need the system. So, so we as a Minister of Agriculture is interested in this awareness raising in order to ensure the sustainability of the system. So basically, the whole methodology is taken from Europe.
Apardım bundan bağlı. Dedilər, bəli, 2020-nin məlumatları üzərində işləyirik və bu layihə həm də bu sistemin inkişafına töhfə verəcək.
Yəni this project that we this project that we organize this event will also contribute to the further development of this database, because as a part of this kind of event, we will get some proposals. You may make some proposals that would help to improve the system. Yes, thank you. While you were talking, I got an idea in my mind that if RBIS project serves the further enrichment of the system, would that be possible that we can organize an additional event and engage the Ministry of Labor, our ministry, tourism ministry, I mean, others who can benefit from this system, so that we could come up with ideas on how to expand the system, how to make it more operational and useful to meet the needs of other agencies as well. I understood that this system was established as a requirement under one of the projects financed by EU agency, but it was not shared and not, how to say, publicized, so that interested parties would be able to use it. So I think this would be a good opportunity to see the system live, to touch it, to smell it, to sense it. I mean, and that would make us clear to in terms of how we can use it. I mean, a good presentation of this system would be a good example in order to get to know, I mean, to see the system, to see the interface. Yes. The Agro Research Center staff collects this data, it would be really nice to look how they verify, how they work. I know how the statistics committee collect data locally, and certain questions appear right at the source of the data. I mean, it would be nice to see from A to Z through the comprehensive presentation. If that is possible, let's do it under the project. If not, then I will ask Rashad Iskandarov. I don't know whether he hears us or not, but to help us to look at the system. Yes, it's a good proposal. I was part of this process. Yes, we missed one part. We were cooperating with the food security sector of the Ministry of Economy. They were part of our events. We have organized even their online education in Catalonia University. There were some study tours, because the approach was to ensure the food security and safety. And Jacek also had a proposal on additional events. So I think Jacek can comment on this. Yes, the Rural Business Information Portal can also be an access port for this data, because most of this data that is here is not collected by the
Çox yaxşı deyədim, mən də dəstəkləmişəm.
Mən də salamlayıram hamını. Fariz müəllimin.
Yeah, Jacek also can comment on this, please.
Fariz müəllim, biz ilkin məlumat kimi burada
Yes.
sizə göndərə bilərik, təqdim edə bilərik.
Yes, we can send you the survey questionnaire for you to know what kind of data is collected, so that you would know what kind of data is collected. But if you want to know the operational flow, then yes, we can organize a presentation. But for the beginning, we can send you to familiarize the data that is collected, list of the variables and indicators that we're collecting. Yes, thank you. Let's say what Jacek thinks about this event. I think under the project it is possible to be implemented. I think if it's possible, I would, yes, appreciate if you would share the questionnaire. Who would like to know what the system is about? Yes, okay. Okay, I will. Jacek, sounds like the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yes, but I think there are two major questions that we should raise at the moment. One, it's about the system, to improve the system, to make it more efficient, and giving us the most accurate and useful information. So this, all that work improving the system should be conducted. And of course, we can, as Ramin mentioned, we are planning, we intend to organize a seminar, but not only on FADN. FADN is only a part of the overall picture that we are talking about programming rural development. But I would like to raise perhaps even more critical question, because if you you know that the system should cover as many farmers as possible, because then you have the real picture of the situation, not only on the samples, statistical samples or whatever. This is only giving you a very initial insight to the to the situation. But in fact, the hard data, collected evidence, true evidence provided by farmers, which is very difficult. Every country, everywhere across the world, farmers are very suspicious to share the data with the collectors, with the whoever is asking. They always hesitate to answer. So that situation. My question is to you, and I'm curious to hear your reaction. How to convince small farmers in your country? How to grab that data? How to grab that information from them and make sure that this is a reliable data? And is it really feasible at the moment with that a huge number of smallholders in the country? That's very important question, because we find in many countries with the numerous farmers, with a big number of people who make living from farming, this is a very critical moment to convince that critical mass of numbers of people who can contribute and be part of that of the system. So, what are your thoughts about that? I think I cannot answer at the moment about the possible seminar because I think it can happen after the holiday season, because still there are problems with entering the countries. I hope to be in the country in June. I'm planning to be in June and probably also in July. But it's more difficult to bring in the short-term consultants. But we will make that effort. We discussed it with Ramil as well, that possibility. So we will organize. And Andrzej is an economist, in fact, and he is one of the experts of the FADN in Poland. This would be a very good resource, in fact, to contribute with his knowledge and experience. But let's concentrate on them. How to attract these farmers and convince them to share and provide evidence, to provide that data which is substantial, true, and accessible and possible to use in the system.
İzahınıza görə ümid edirik ki, ümumiyyətlə cənab Yasekin iyun ayında Azərbaycana səfəri hər hansı bir problem olmasa planlaşdırılır. Fariz müəllim.
Right. We're expecting Jacek to come in June if there will be no problems. Yes, with not many participants, but like a group of 10 can be engaged into this.
Cəlb olunan digər ekspertləri də bu və digər şəkildə imkanlarından ki, daha çox sistemdə.
Hopefully, other experts also will be exposed to the system. Yes, if the project indeed is about improving the system, then we need to improve its accessibility as well. I looked at our archives, our statistical, so to say, yearbook was published since 2013. It was different data then, now it is different. Jacek actually raised a good question about collection of this data, about the pool of the farmers, because indeed we have so to say too many small farmers, because the number of farmers with less than 5 hectares of land is just 80% of our universe.
Yeah.
It is important to have reliable data. It is impossible to be in a position to verify this data. Yes, we cross-check this data from different sources, and now we have more and more information, because we have subsidy systems in the agricultural ministry, we have the registries, and the property committee has land ownership data, etc., etc. There is a veterinary system. about the artificial insemination. So there are different sources
Yeah.
Of data, but all this stuff that is attending here, they work with this data and develop analysis, make analysis, but we all know that better the quality of data, better the quality of analysis. Do you have any other questions, please? Yes, not just questions, comments. Please feel yourself free. Yes, please. You are from the very first day in this process. Yes, please. Hello, greetings to everybody. Yes, collection of data from a lot of small farmers, that's a very difficult process. And the Agri Research Center did a great job in setting up the system, and this information is well available on the website, and this information is useful for research, for dissertations, for students. But the question was how we can motivate farmers to join the system. I am in research since 97, and I been part of these survey studies and tenders all over the country since 2000. And data collection was problem then, and it is a problem now. It's all the same. They don't provide accurate data. They talk about average approximations. As I am in this business for many years, I can easily grab the point and understand to which extent this information is true or not. We need to explain the farmers that bookkeeping or recording is for their own benefit. They need to understand that if they will look at the records, keep the records, they can improve the efficiency of their own performance. That's what they should know first of all. Sometimes they are concerned that their income information will be provided to tax authorities. But when you explain them that this is about analysis, this is about support, this is not about taxation, etc., and the whole effort of the state is to provide help to farmers to know the problems and the concerns of farmers in order to work on them. This is to help to identify main targets. Then they think that they cannot speak freely. In 2007, I did research on beekeeping. This is very profitable field, of course. They all were reluctant to provide this data. We explained that it's not about exposing your income and impose taxes. No, it is about identification of problems in the beekeeping sector. Because we know that beekeeping sector is not enough to meet the needs of the country, or the prices are very high to have this be affordable. So for as long as we were explaining them, they were more willing to share this data. Second issue is to help the farmers to use this data. I think if this will be explained to farmers, if they will understand that, then farmers will be more accurate in terms of their record keeping. They can send their data to the Agrarian Research Center, and they will understand that this is good for their own decision making and also for the advisory services that are provided to them.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you were part of FDMS for many years, and you're still in that process. Indeed, collecting data from farmers is a big problem everywhere. When we talk to Hungarian systems, these colleagues, they said that we collect data from one farmer on the farm. From others, we collect data while drinking beer with them. So people are different, mechanisms attitudes are different. Yeah, nobody wants the others to know how much money they have. But again, we explained everybody that this is a confidential data, not supported to anybody. It's only for economical purposes, and that's the way how it works in EU as well. We collect data from tax authorities, but we don't give data to tax authorities. Explaining confidentiality is very important. They know the system well, the experts now, and yes, we need to improve it further. Our colleagues will also speak, I think. Ramin Babayev wants to join, I think. Yes, please.
Amma səslə bağlı nəsə problem var.
Ramin has microphone on, but it looks like it's not working. We can't hear him.
Ramil.
Bəli, Ramin müəllim Babayev qoşulur, amma ki
Ramin Babayev wants to join. Jacek, you wanted to say something?
No. I just, well, perhaps yes. Yes, I would like to say about, I think I cannot at the moment find whether it was Mr. Hussein or Mr. Guliev, but I think there was a very good point about involving the Agriculture Advisory Service into the system of collecting data from farmers. Usually the agriculture advisors are working in the field very closely with the farmer, and there is a lot of confidence that is built between these people and farmers they serve. So I think in many countries there is also a service of bookkeeping for farmers, which is part of the FADN, of course, collecting data. And this is like a service. And this is sometimes convincing people that if there is agriculture advisory service as an advisor whom they know, whom they trust, and there is a service of that bookkeeping, this is building another bridge of confidence between people and enable them to be more exchanging with the with the data, and this is one of the ways, of course, not the only one, but this is very good point. I think Agriculture Advisory Service, and we know that at the moment there is a EU and FAO project aiming at improving that service. I think this should be one of the issues that it should be considered during the pilot implementation of the project, when everything is in place, and soon they will do the field work with the advisors. That's what I think it's worth underlining.
Cənab Yasif, çox maraqlı bir məsələyə toxundunuz. Məlumat üçün qeyd edeyim ki,
Important issue. Yes. We don't have full coverage by the advisory services. In 2006, there was a World Bank project. They were supposed to establish the advisory service. It was financing the establishment of advisory service until 2010, but after the end of the project, because of lack of resources, it stopped. Until then, we don't have a comprehensive system of advisory services. But in 2010, when it started collecting data for 4 regions, we exactly used them. They were jobless. That was end of the project. We signed the employment contract with them because they were experienced. They knew the farmers. They started collecting data. So, although they lost their jobs as an advisory service, they continued working as data collectors. But in 2013, there was lack of resources, so we had to use own staff of the ministry. So we don't have sustainable advisory services to bring them into this process. Agrarian Research Center is doing something in this field, but the most successful, the best approach now is to engage the agrarian development centers into this process. That's the only thing we can afford now. But if this will develop, if other agencies will also decide to support this, then we can bring in professional data collectors, and some other additional options can be applied for as long as there will be support to ensure the sustainability. Sustainability is important. We have advisory services only in few areas, not throughout the country. We have a new project, which is just a project. Under that project, it is difficult to establish advisory services throughout the country, and this lack of advisory services is one of the kind of number one problems in the country. We have phytosanitary, we have veterinary, etc., but no advisory service. This is one of our weaknesses. Ramil Babayev, we can see him, but he cannot hear us, and we cannot hear him.
Yes, we cannot hear.
Anybody else then? Especially the Minister of Economy. They work with entrepreneurs. We understand that they work with entrepreneurs working in all fields, including agrarian. Yes, can hear you. Elvin,
Fikirləri.
would you like to say something?
Buyurun Elvin müəllim. Çox sağ olun.
Hello, how are you? How are you doing? Thank you. Yes, I'm just listening. Thank you for giving me the floor. If this data is used, then this is definitely a sign of usefulness of this data.
Elvin müəllim, mümkün olsa görüntünü bağlayın, səsi daha yaxşı eşidək. Sizin
I
fikirləriniz
cannot
nədir?
hear them. The voice, the sound comes interrupted. Now Ramil asking to turn off the video in order to ensure better sound. We'll see. Yes, getting data from farmers, that's very difficult. Sometimes they don't want to give it. And they always question why you collect this data. First of all, you have to convince these people that this data is for your own development. That the decisions to be made will be made on the basis of this information. And in terms of subsidies, this motivation this can be a motivation that this data can be used for subsidies purposes. Thank you.
Ramil, we don't hear you.
Elvin müəllim, çox sağ olun. Təşəkkür edirik qiymətli fikirləriniz üçün. Ümumiyyətlə siz də yəni prosesin içindəsiniz.
Thank you. Thank you for this valuable input. You are part of this process. What do you think? Should we also cover really small farmers, those who are doing subsistence farming, or only the market active farmers should be engaged? What do you think? Do you think that this information would be useful not only for the business purposes, but for the subsistence farmers as well? Yes. To have the overall picture of the market, yes. We need to, of the economy, but not the market, the economy. But yes, we need to cover those farmers as well. But if we're aimed at the market only, then active farmers, farmers that are active in the market, that would be enough. The data of household plots also can be useful, but to which extent this will be reliable, we don't know. This discussion is a part of the partly reaches the issue of which was mentioned by Tarana Heydarov, that some agricultural products are cheaper in towns than in rural areas. Because this is part of the important analysis that indeed what was the price of the at the door price, and what was the price at the market, what's the difference, why it appears. So we can determine that based on the data that we have in every district, and why, if at the door it is sold for 5 manat and in the market it's at 15 manat, then that's not good. We have to look at that. What's in between? Why it's so big, such a big difference? Other colleagues, yes, please be active. Anybody else? Tarana, yes, please.
Çox sağ olun.
Greetings to everybody. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. First of all, that was very interesting discussion topic. Interesting to me. I, for the first time, heard about FADN because we are talking about social economic development of regions. Professor saying your information on FDMS was also interesting. We basically have no idea, at least I speak for myself, about it. That was very useful to have this data because I do quarterly, semi-annual, 9-month statistic data analysis. And the information that I get from statistical office sometimes is not sufficient. The economic region that I'm covering is has 3 areas. One of them is industrial. Other one is very limited in terms of the agriculture. Other one is more or less okay. Third one is more or less okay. So the one that is more or less okay provides the data. Other two, of course, provide no data. So if you cannot get the data, then you exclude that from analysis. And this approach is not useful. I hope that if we will apply to FDMS, I hope it will be accessible because we're preparing the portal as well. It would be nice to look at your system to see what we can get. Maybe we will apply SMS in writing to you for you to share this information. I hope it will be accessible. Hopefully, the staff of the ministry also will be able to access this data online. Besides that, one of the problems is that we didn't manage to build the trust with the farmers. They don't trust us much. We couldn't build up these relations. Everybody said that they try to hide it or they don't say everything because they don't trust us. That's understandable. That's why we need to work with them to build up this trustworthy relations and explain that this is for their own good. If they will share the true information. Yes, awareness raising among farmers is very important now. I think this is what we need to pay attention to. It was very interesting to listen to this discussion. I hope that there will be no problems in future in having these discussions. Thank you, and looking forward to have many more other discussions. Thank you. You are one of the active participants that closely follow our events and actively participate. Yes, our system is capable of providing different data. Yes, we have opened information. FDMS also will contribute to the development of your portal. Of course, your system is important from the sustainability point of view as well. Again, building up trust, as Faris also mentioned, would help us. Sometimes we can write great documents, great plans, but sometimes they are too much ahead of time. First, we need to meet the current needs of farmers, and we need to convince the farmers that this information will help us to cover that. But before that, we have a lot of problems that we need to resolve. And this would help us to work with farmers in future. For example, a farmer that produces vegetables on 1 hectare of land has income that is different from a farmer that produces cereals on 10 hectares of land. It's good to have this data in terms of giving annual forecast. Yes, we have agricultural insurance as well. We don't have representatives of them here, but it will be good if this system will be accessible for them as well, because this is useful for them as well. Yes, finally, I would like to mention here that we have limited information about the system because we work on regional development, not specifically on agriculture. A couple of years ago, we had field visits, and specifically to Aran area. We did the SWOT analysis at that time and developed the reports and consequently the development program for this area. All I would like to say that even when the farmers are engaged into this process, to the meeting of stakeholders, some farmers failed to speak about the problems or were reluctant to speak about the problems. Well, our approach at that time was on regional basis, not at the village basis, but I hope that this will be from now on summarized and this will be resolved sometimes in the near future. Yes, thank you. Starting from the next year, there will be more changes because the statute of local executive authorities has changed and they will be applying to ministries for the support, and that means that FDMS will be more actively employed for development of these strategies and plans. This will be a useful data source for you as well in future. So we're coming close to our discussions, coming close to our end of the discussions. So this is the last call for your viewers. Yes, if I may, we have a couple more minutes. In terms of the price for the products, Taran was right in mentioning that why in rural areas products are more expensive than in Baku. Yes, I've been to Gedabay, Kuba, Gusar, Gedabay, Ismail areas. Indeed, the prices of agricultural products there are more expensive than in Baku. I was there and decided that I will come back to Baku and buy them there. Why? Because sales market are not well developed there. These bazaars, markets, they remain as they were in the Soviet times. It's a small area. If you want to see the farmer selling the product, you have to come at 5, 6 in the morning to see that farmer. And only then you can buy this product from the real farmer. Others that you see in the market, they are intermediaries. In Soviet times, most of the products were produced not in the farmland, but in the household plots. On Saturday and Sunday, they were bringing them to market. We don't have the plenty products now in rural areas. Now it is much less for the household plots. Now whatever is produced, this is produced in agricultural land, and the population of these cities increased. So all the products produced in rural areas, they're transported to the areas where the population is bigger. So in the local market, in the regions, you will not be able to find a real farmer selling something. That's all of them are intermediaries. That's why the prices are high. Although it is produced locally. That's the problem. That's a cause. Of course, all this detailed data, if it will be collected more accurately, all this analysis would be more precise and more efficient. Yes, thank you. We're done. We are 3.5 hours sitting in front of the computers. Let's not make our colleagues tired even more. We will continue our discussions next Tuesday. We have 3 more events. After that, we will have a great certificate, as was proposed by Jacek. We will submit this as well. This event was supposed to be live, but we had it online because of the quarantine. Jacek, the final word is yours, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Ramil, for your moderation, and thank you very much those participants who contributed to the discussion. I think that this is one of the most vivid discussions I passed through during these workshops, which is a bit surprising because usually FADN is a bit boring subject. Usually finances, only specialists like it. But in this particular case, FADN and FDMS are the real tools, real supporters, let's say like that, to the farmers and to the policymakers to take decisions. Let me repeat that phrase, but this is very important. I think the critical issue of this training was not only FADN itself, but also the moment at which we can find what way and how we can collect information and how we can assess, even estimate its usefulness and convert it into the legislation, into the systems, into programs, enabling farmers and their families to generate better income and improve their life. This is very general, but this is true, in fact. I think very important voices at the end of the discussion were about farmers being viable businesses. I think it's another matter to discuss. I think it's a huge problem in the countries where agriculture is an important part of the economy. But let me, it's not the subject for today, but let me also tell you that we are working on improving the price collection system. And you can imagine that the price collection system is also the mean for finding the way to provide market information about the prices, which contributes to the economical decisions of farmers, but also policymakers, because the measures should be also, some of the measures of the policy should be focused on this on this subject. Anyway, thank you very much for your participation. See you on Tuesday, because we start the same time. Oh, let me suggest, because I've heard from Nazrin that there are voices that perhaps we can start earlier, because we already know each other. We know who participates, and the registration takes less time than it was at the first stages of implementing these workshops. So perhaps we can start not Q2, but we can start 25 to. So it saves us 10 minutes, not only to contribute with presentations, but also to discuss and exchange questions. So thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much for your contribution, and see you in a couple of days, Tuesday morning. Goodbye.
Herkese teşekkürler. Çok
Yes,
sağ olun.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Leaving now. Goodbye.